Man, I hate talking about supernatural shit. And I'll tell you why. Because most people, even though they might believe in a higher power and the power of positive energy, reject the negative and the fact that it exists and the struggle between light and dark.
Why is my icon a battery? Because that's exactly what this world is, or our reality is. Most people don't understand how a battery works. The majority of the energy that comes from a battery that does the actual work comes from the negative side. And it's positive's reaction to it that puts it to work, that gives it its power. So in other words, or more simply put, if we're not willing to react to the negative, eventually negative takes over everything. And that is quite literally why so much negative energy has been introduced into our system ever since the last election. Don't think they weren't going to do it anyway, but they were going to do it in a different form, where they had more control and power over the outcome. And here's the bitch about it, and our biggest mistake, in my view. We've allowed it to happen. That's why it's gained so much power in recent time. Unless positive is willing to react to the negative forces that are being unleashed upon our reality, eventually it's going to rule everything. And it's when we decide to not participate or only look at positive things or distract ourselves with what I have called on many different occasions trivial pursuits that allows negative to gain as much power as it has in the world. So back to the battery analogy, I suppose. Negative is disorganized. Negative in the end, when faced with the positive side of things, is easily controlled. But when we're unwilling to do so, it gets out of control. And that's exactly what we're witnessing in the world today. And when a battery goes to shit, the same damn process happens. It's an electric universe. We are bioelectric machines and are subject to the properties of the same. So you don't get to be just all good or all evil. It has to be a balance. And it applies in the universe, it applies on our planet or our reality, and it applies to each of us as individuals. And if we only focus on the positive and don't acknowledge the negative, we open the door for disaster. You don't get to just be the frequency that you want to be. You have to be able to accept, interpret, and battle on all frequencies, or in the end, just like unfortunately someone learned the hard way not too long ago, you lose. Because eventually negative becomes such a preeminent force in our lives that it destroys everything, including life itself. And as hard as it might be to acknowledge, accept, or wrap our little tiny human minds around, that's exactly what's going on. They're trying to tip the balance between positive and negative, so that negative can rule it all. And by choosing not to participate or pretending that it isn't going on without taking some kind of course of action, we allow it to happen. We are programmed to turn away from the ugliness of the world. When the reality of it is, when we do, we only allow it to gain more power. And in the end, if it goes on long enough, eventually, the ugliness will rule our lives. Or take our lives, as the case may be.
So like it or not, believe it or not, accept it or not, at the core of it, that's how this shit works. I suppose my question for you would be, what are you going to do about it?